When you make an acquisition, what is the risk that the key players that you've identified you want to keep in the organization actually decide that they don't want to be part of the organization? Does it happen often? And B, what can you do to mitigate that? And three, when do you identify that you've got to create systems or controls or mechanisms to keep those people if you want them to be successful in that organization, or if you want to be successful with that organization, which people do you want to keep and how do you incent them to stay?
Yeah, great question. It's critically important because quite often in a lot of acquisitions you will see key people inside the organization leave, and to me that's it sounds it. I'm going to say it's simple. It's not simple, but it's as simple as not having them have a comfort level with you as an organization. We realize that we've seen that happen. We've been burnt by that because of our own lack of communications. But I guess to cut that off at the pass and reduce that risk. The most important thing is that the new owner, whether it be the CEO or the senior management person responsible for the acquisition, is on the ground day one, speaking to each one of those key people as a one-on-one. Get to know you, allow them you get to know them and they get to know you, and really open up that immediate line of communications. One of the things we do as part of the 200 days after, as part of the integration program that helps this, is we do what we call our acquisition roadshow. So what we do is we bring all of the employees together in a group along with their leaders and their managers, and the executive team from our organization, the organization that's doing the acquisition. We put on usually about a 2-hour presentation, a PowerPoint presentation with some videos, etc., that really goes into quite a bit about who we are as an organization, where we started, where we're going, the strategy that we're working, why we bought their company, the strengths that we bought their company for, how we treat our people, what our culture is all about, all of those type of things. And we allow the entire organization, as soon as possible, usually within the first week, to have a very good understanding of who we are as an organization and get to see the faces of the senior executive team. You need to do that because the anxiety level around the acquisition from the people that are being acquired is no higher than probably the first 7 days after an acquisition. And if you don't get in front of those people and tell your story and tell a great story, they're going to fill in that communications gap with a version of their own story of what it's like. And in most cases, it's not good. It goes negative really fast. And I can talk about sort of the 3 types of personalities that we find when we do an acquisition in a minute. But I guess I'll stop there because that's really how I guess you kind of cut that anxiety off at the pass. Most leaders leave because of the unknown and the anxiety that's raised around the leadership team that is acquiring their organization.
Right. And just to turn that around for a second, if you're advising a company that you're helping to prepare for sale, you'd probably expect this is what we want to see from the people purchasing you, right? These are the things we're looking for. Or if we're advising a company that we're helping in a transition piece, we're going to be saying to them, we need you to make sure this, and this are covered in part of the process to make sure that we're comfortable with the new management team, or the new ownership team rather, because the management team, like you said, is critical to the success of the company.
Yeah, that's very true. And it goes back to your question or comment earlier about what kind of legacy do you want to leave? It's easy to say to a company that's acquiring you that this is the legacy we want you to leave. But yes, in fact, the owner should be doing their due diligence on that organization that's looking to buy. We just went through this with a company that had 3 actual bidders on the business. And 2 of them, you could just tell right off the bat, the culture did not fit and it was going to be a disaster. The company that it was sold to for a fair price, but they had a culture that was really going to facilitate that continuation or transition of the legacy.
Yeah, I'd like to kind of keep going on the people aspect, because I think we all agree that that people are everything. That, you know, the company is the people. But I think back when we first met, you know, and some of the acquisitions, it was almost like the Care Bears, where you were always kind of carrying along everybody as much as you could, to where you're now, where I think it's a much more disciplined process. Can you kind of describe kind of the evolution in how you've progressed on that people aspect in that transition process, and how the disciplined approach you take now is different?
Sure. Yeah, that's a great point too. And the Care Bear description is is probably a very accurate one. You know, we would acquire a business, and we were the friendly guys, and you know, nothing's going to change, and we're just going to let it be, and you're all doing a great job, and so on and so forth. And we didn't see that anxiety or lack of communications as being as bad as it was, and people filling in the story, and a lot of negative energy going on behind the scene. And it was really, you know, you're almost running around trying to put out, you know, anxiety fires after you realize that being you know, I guess very soft, I guess, around your acquisition and integration strategy and how that can backfire on you. You know, what we discovered, and this goes to the comments of the three types of people that we see when we do an acquisition. We realized by observing patterns and doing postmortems, I guess, is on successful and unsuccessful acquisitions, we kind of started to realize there was sort of three types of personalities that pop up in an acquisition. You know, one is probably 10% of the people in the organization say this is, you know, this is the greatest thing that's ever happened to us. We've been acquired by a great company. We like these people. Let's just get going and really make a better future here. And then there's another 10% on the far end of that spectrum that they think this is the worst thing that's ever happened to the business. They don't trust anybody, especially the new people that have bought the business. They have a very high level of anxiety. They are not necessarily positive contributors to the business today, and their mission is to sabotage everything that the new companies trying to do, be it change management, be it anything. They're acquisition destroyers, you know. And then you've got this 80% of the employees in the middle who are really great employees, and they're kind of watching who's going to gain the most ground, the 10% of the people that this is a great idea, or the 10% of the people that say this is a terrible idea. And they're going to sit on the fence, and we call them fence sitters. And we understand why, and there's nothing wrong with that. And all of a sudden they're going to lean whichever way, you know, they think the acquisition is going to go, and they're going to protect themselves and stay with the new attitude or go back with the old attitude. And that observation and that scenario was playing out in every single acquisition that we bought, and every single acquisition going forward. I guess how we address that going forward in the future, and I guess this is the evolution of the people side of an acquisition, was right off the bat, we developed some very unique, I guess what we would call experiential learning environments that we created for the senior management team. And that's where the biggest threat is inside that team, where you've got the 10% of the people who are going to destroy your efforts around the acquisition. We basically have a high experiential learning exercise that's combined with the strategy development session I talked about earlier, that really helps us very quickly surface those discussions within the management team, that those three types of personalities are going to play out amongst their employees, and how important it is that the people in the middle transition from fence sitters to being engaged in the acquisition and being part of the future success of the business, and how important it is to identify the 10% that are going to destroy the business, give them an opportunity to transition quickly and demonstrate it, And if not, we need to get them out of the business as quickly as possible, because it is the poison in the dart, so to speak. So that's how we sort of transition from the Care Bear scenario to a very disciplined process around people development.
So it sounds to me like it's critically important that you have a framework to follow. Once you've made the transaction, it's complete, and you want to integrate that company to the new ownership, whether it's a larger corporation or a private equity firm or just another strategic buyer or financial buyer for that matter, who wants that business to be successful. You better have a good transition process so that you can address these concerns, knowing that that breakout that you've just provided for the future success of that business.
You're absolutely right, and it's scalable to a company of 10, and to a company of 10,000. It's very scalable, and the principles play out no matter the size of the organization, because let's face it, it's human behavior that we're dealing with, and that shows up in every acquisition, every integration. So know what the challenges are, know what the opportunities are, have a process to identify it, and surface it, and allow a safe environment to have those conversations where people don't feel threatened discussing those three types of behaviors.